Can I just ask everyone to make sure their microphones are switched off, please? Right, thanks for your patience, everybody. Mr. Apsley, can I just ask you to introduce who is with you, please?
Gone off again.
We are allowed to carry on. I don't know where that's coming from. Sorry, we're getting a bit of noise coming through. Right, okay. So I'm now going to ask Yvonne just to introduce the report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chair. As indicated, this is an application for the grant of a premises licence. Members have had an opportunity now to look at the supplementary information that's been submitted since the original reports and representations have been made. Mr. Apsley, you also asked to have time to have a look at the statements produced after the report had gone out. Have you had sufficient time to consider those? Thank you.
Sorry, Yvonne, can I just say something? Mr. Apsley, can I just ask, if you want to speak, or you're indicated to speak, could you press the red button? Okay, and the microphone is the one with the red band around it. It's just so anyone online can hear you as well.
Yeah, no probs.
Just lift it up.
There you go, thank you.
Obviously, the applicant will outline in more detail the background to his information, but in your reports pack, you have the actual application form and the accompanying plan at Appendix A. The applicants described the premises as a new cocktail, wine bar and events venue function room, comprising the ground floor at 14 Knowlton Street and the first and second floors at 20 Knowlton Street in Bridgend Town Centre. Within your report, the application sets out the licensable activities sought as part of this application, and that includes the sale of alcohol for consumption both on and off the premises, for the standard timings shown from Monday to Sunday within your report, and for the non-standard timings, principally for bank holidays, Christmas and New Year. The application also seeks the provision of recorded music, both indoors and outdoors, for the time specified within the report. And there's just a reminder within the report that regulated entertainment is deregulated in certain circumstances before 11 o'clock, so no licence is required for that period prior to 11 o'clock. The application also seeks the provision of live music, both indoors and outdoors, for the standard timings shown in the report and also for non-standard timings. And finally, the application seeks to provide films indoors and outdoors, Monday to Sunday, from 12 noon to 2200 hours, and there are no non-standard timings on that application. Within the application form, the applicant has offered a number of conditions in the form of an operating schedule. That can be found at section M of the application form, and for each licensable activity, the applicant has explained how they will mitigate the risk in respect of each of the 4 licensing objectives, and the applicant, if members were minded to grant that operating schedule will be translated into conditions to be attached to the licence. In accordance with the requirements of the Licensing Act 2003, the responsible authorities have had an opportunity to consider the application, and it has also been advertised in accordance with the regulations at the premises in a local newspaper and on the council's website. Representations were received during the consultation period from other persons, and in this case it is residents, and at that time two responsible authorities, South Wales Police and Shared Regulatory Services Environmental Health. A schedule of representations received can be found at Appendix B to your report. As I indicated in the introduction, South Wales Police have withdrawn their representation, so will not be speaking to you in respect of the application. Again, if members were minded to grant the application, the conditions listed in Appendix B are the ones that the police would recommend are attached to the licence. Representation number 2 in your report was submitted by Mary Stevens, and she also submitted a video as part of her representations taken of the premises outside Knowlton Street, which the members have had sight of. At this point, I've also outlined the additional information that all the parties wish to speak to today, and in due course, at the appropriate point, they can address you on the additional information submitted. Unless there are any questions in relation to the conduct of the meeting, Chair, that's the report and application before you.
Thank you, Yvonne. Anyone have any questions now before we ask the applicant to present their case? No. Right, so Mr. Apsey, can I ask you to present your case, please?
Basically, I know I submitted a pre-statement yesterday. The majority of what I wanted to get across is sort of tied up in that statement. Obviously, I just want to reiterate that we do want to work with the local authority and officers to try and ensure that the premises is run how they want it to be run, whilst also, conducting a business that is sustainable for ourselves. Obviously, I've gone through all the information, and like I said, most of the stuff that we've addressed is in that statement. Like, we are a well-respected sort of like restaurant and bar group, and feel that we are running, sort of venues which are responsibly run, well-run establishments. And obviously, we do take into consideration all the information we've been presented with, and are happy to work with yourselves to try and get a resolution for this.
Yes, Yvonne.
Mr. Apsey, perhaps it would be helpful for the meeting if you could just summarise what your statement comprises.
Yeah, no problems. So, obviously, in the statement I said, I've obviously given a bit of background about what we currently do in the town centre, like obviously emphasising that where we have set up is a town centre location on one of the main streets in town, which is fast becoming sort of like known for its hospitality sort of sector. We're not trying to do anything out the ordinary here. We're not trying to, have raves and things like that. We're literally trying to run like a nice, upmarket sort of bar and venue for the right sort of clientele, employing plenty of like local people we've already employed, and trying to safeguard their jobs at the end of the day. I said obviously we put a significant investment into the venue and the facade, and bringing what was sort of derelict property back into the sort of like public use. I think one of my biggest things is to try and make Bridgend better and create better choice of places where people want to go and want to spend their evenings in Bridgend. Because I don't really buy into the whole bad rap that it gets and things like that. I think if we create a positive environment, people will come. I've obviously then addressed some of the points in the representations in relation to a couple of the noise complaints that we did receive. Like I've said, with the sort of glass bin situation, which was one of the points which I think was in the representations, we were totally unaware about that until obviously I had those reputations through. And obviously I'd had a phone call with Matthew Jones and someone else from Environment Health when that wasn't even raised with myself, nor with any of the tenants. I appreciate that's something that was oversight on our part, but since then I've actually spoken to the staff and we put a condition in that from 10 p.m. onwards, no one is to empty any glass into any glass bins. But obviously that issue could have been resolved sort of like 6 weeks ago, not sort of in the more recent weeks once it came to our attention. I say we've done further training with staff in relation to noise nuisance and ensuring the noise levels are kept down. I understand that one of the complaints was people outside. Whilst I accept that, yeah, there are people coming out of the premises, it is a main street in Bridgend and it is the thoroughfare from people getting from top end of town to the bottom end of town. So, you know, not all of the noise and everything and people walking past is necessarily coming from our venue. Spoken to obviously the door staff to manage that area out the front where people are going to vape and to smoke. And obviously there's no glass permitted outside, so we're hoping to try and like refrain from any sort of like sustained periods where people are outside chatting for a long time and that sort of things, try and keep them actually in the venue. I said no windows are actually open in the venue, it's all trying to keep noise contained within there. So we are looking to actively put things in place to try and mitigate that. What else was on here? As I said, we've spoken, I do work closely with a lot of the residents in Tîr Hen y Castell, because obviously I've got the tapas restaurant, which is directly below them. And like I said, I have regular communication with the residents to, and hopefully we try and have a working relationship with them to sort of nip any sort of issues in the bud. And most of the residents I've spoken to are really supportive of what we're doing. But I said I'm always, open to having feedback from them and trying to work with them to make sure that we're not, causing them any sort of like distress. In relation to the conversation that I did have with Mr. Jones about, I don't really want to go too much into it because, yeah, for obvious reasons. I did actually, was willing to negotiate on that day, but he seemed very unwilling to do so. And the conversation became a little bit heated, and yeah, the call was then terminated, not by myself. But yeah, but as I said, I was more than willing to negotiate and work with the local authority in these matters. I think there needs to be some form of communication struck back up here to move forward and actually address any of the issues which are arising. Yeah, I think that was pretty much it. Trying to cover it all. Like I said, I'm an open book when it sort of comes to stuff like this, and ultimately, we want to try and make Bridgend somewhere better, places to go which people are going to enjoy, whilst also obviously keeping everyone happy through the residents and things like that. And yeah, if you just advise us on what you actually want from us, then I'm more than happy to listen and take things on board. Okay.
Right, thanks for that, Mr. Apsey. Can you just clear something up for me? Norton Arcade has got 2 entrances. Is it just the one you're using?
At present, yes.
So you are proposing to open up the other one then?
Yes.
Right, okay.
We're actually in discussion with the landlord at the minute. We've currently got occupancy of the ground floor unit, and we're currently in discussions. I think the landlord has asked us actually to take it on to develop the old arcade and bring that back into life, which obviously that entrance then on the front of Norton Arcade would then come into use. Yeah.
Right. Just for the recording, Matthew, could you please introduce who you are?
Yeah, I'm Matthew Jones. I'm the Environmental Health Supervisor for shared regulatory services, covering mainly Bridgend and the Vale, but also Cardiff and some work. And obviously I've been dealing with the complaints for this premises, as well as responding to the initial planning application from an environmental health
That's
perspective.
okay, just so we know, so the recording knows who you are. Thank
Okay,
you.
thanks.
Right, Mr. Apsey, can I just ask you what conversations have been had between yourself and Shared Regulatory Services?
No. To be honest, I don't really want to go into too much detail because I don't want this to become a slagging match between myself and Matthew, which is what I'm trying to avoid. I did have an initial conversation, which I think has been documented somewhere, with with the Helen Pembridge, is it? Yeah, I had a very sort of brief conversation on the 9th of September. To be honest, it was more whereby we just I can't really remember what was discussed. It was really brief. And I think then any objections with environmental health then got withdrawn. I then obviously had the conversation with Mr. Jones in September, where he raised that there'd been multiple complaints. I asked the nature of the complaints, which he didn't really give a lot of detail to, apart from that there was noise outside and people and recorded music being heard. I then assured him that literally, as I said, as I previously stated, like we are like a really well-run operation, and I'm not negligent in that sort of sense, and I'm literally hands-on, on-site all the time. And I advised him like the measures I was taking. I said, I'm on site, I'm back and forth, I'm across the road checking noise levels, making sure, in my opinion, that it is, obviously reasonable noise levels. He was quite dismissive in the whole host of information I'd given him, and basically said that was I willing to negotiate? And I said, look, he wanted to bring it forward to 12 o'clock from, I think it was either 2 or 2:30. I said, yeah, that's not a problem. I'm happy to negotiate at 1 o'clock. To which he responded, so you're not willing to negotiate then, and if you fail to negotiate with me, then we will be putting representations in against your full license. Obviously, I then took quite umbrage to that because I don't like to be threatened. We had a bit of back and forth, and then he hung up on me. And that was the last I've spoken to Mr. Jones. And that was back in September. And since then, I've had no sort of correspondence with anyone from Environmental Health, apart from the emails where a notice was served on us last week. And I am happy to get the voice recording of that phone call from the council to corroborate my sort of account.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Joe? Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I've got a couple of questions. I've driven past the venue myself late at night, and there are always pockets of people outside. I understand that you can't control people working from venue to venue, but can you just let me know what you're doing to sort of counteract that problem, please?
Well, long term, we have actually got a plan to put a rear sort of like outside space into the property, but obviously it's reliant on funding, getting the workers there, and it is an ongoing project at the minute. We're sort of like doing it in phases. We're trying to develop each phase as we go along, like I said, with the ground floor and the arcade and things like that. So yeah, there is sort of like a plan to put, hopefully, we're hoping, well, sooner rather than later really, to put a rear sort of area where we can have people who want to go and smoke and things like that. I'd say probably on a max is probably only a handful of people who are ever really outside. A lot of the time there are people coming from the top end of town to the bottom end of town, walking past, so it always looks a lot busier than it actually is. But like I said, we have got the door staff. I've actually spoken to them on a few occasions now, and sort of reiterated what we wanted from that sort of outside little bit there, where we're not holding any sort of queues, and we are encouraging people to obviously finish their cigarette and get back inside quickly. So yeah, I think it's just more of a management sort of position there where we need to sort of just be on top of it.
Another thing I wanted to ask, you've mentioned outdoor music.
Yeah.
Well, obviously you've got complaints being made at the moment about the indoor music.
Yeah.
So the outdoor music is going to cause even more disruption.
Yeah, that that initially, so obviously this application has been in since probably, I think it was August time when we originally set it. So the original like sort of concept was a little bit like what they're doing down outside Poco and Huna Bar and things like that. If we had an outside area and want to put an acoustic singer on in the afternoon, create a bit of atmosphere, it was more just to be able, so we'd have the facility to actually do that. We're not planning on having Metallica turning up or anything like that. It's literally going to be, yeah, just an acoustic singer in sort of a courtyard setting. Obviously, if that's going to be something which is, you know, a sticking point, then I'm happy to negotiate on that, and we can revise that sort of thing.
Sorry, me again.
Go on.
One last one. The video we were shown earlier on, were you aware of that incident? And could you give us some sort of
I
explanation
haven't
of it, please?
seen the video.
Okay, thank you.
But what I would like to add on that is obviously we've since taken legal advice on all this, and I got loads of videos from every single weekend pretty much. But I was actually advised not to submit any videos because obviously if they're on mobile phones, then they're open to sort of scrutiny, and they're not actually you know, voice or video, you know, sound recording devices. So I was actually advised by our legal team not to submit any videos. But I have got, if anyone wants to see them, I've got about 10, 15 videos over the last sort of like 6 weeks.
Yvonne, can I ask you to come in, please?
The video formed part of Mary Stevens's representations. That's the one that's referred to in the report. I don't know whether at which point it will be appropriate, because everybody can ask questions after each presentation of each other, whether or not, Mary, you'd like to describe what you submitted when you make your case, and then Mr. Apsey can answer any questions, and accordingly at this point, both Matthew and Mary, if I can call you that, can ask questions of Mr. Apsey. So hopefully that will be able to come out in the meeting. That's okay.
Thanks, Yvonne. Tony, was there anything you wanted to?
Yeah,
Mike?
I always forget about it. Where do you rubbish? Where
Sorry?
do you dispose of it? Where is
Rubbish?
It? Yeah. And
So-
the bottles and stuff like that. Is it always on the road, on the pavement?
No, so basically, with regards to the glass, it's the two glass bins we've got are currently underneath the shutter on the front of Nottingham Arcade, but we've since moved them now to the rear of the arcade since we were made aware of the noise. So they're now at the rear of the arcade, and then they go out onto the street every Friday, no, Tuesday nights. So they go out on Tuesday night and get collected then. With general waste and cardboard, they're all housed in the Rue basement of the shopping centre. So the bottom of Rue Hill on the right-hand side, we've actually got our own private contract bins in there, which are collected on a regular basis. So
And
we have
when do the
weekly
dray
collections.
wagons?
Pardon?
When do the dray wagons unload?
They're on a Thursday morning.
They're on a Thursday morning.
Yeah. And the barrels are round on Rue Hill. We come through the arcade, and then they're deposited. The cellar is actually in the arcade.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then obviously wine and things like that, they then come through the front door and up the stairs. Same as what it is with La Casina and Marble. They're all the same sort of thing.
And you're open to open the back of the arcade up? When?
Well, it's just talks to me. The landlord has approached us and asked me if I wanted to do that, which I've said I think about it. Obviously, it's a big project to try and bring that arcade back, and it is in sort of like a great state of disrepair. But I think it would be something that would be really good for the town. Obviously, Lee's Arcade was sort of iconic, so I think that would be something that would be good to sort of bring back. But yeah, but it's all very tentative at the minute.
Where would the outside space be?
So we've put sort of provisions in for, obviously the venue's on the first floor. So to the rear of that, there's an area where we could put an outside sort of area. Yeah. So it'll effectively be where the arcade roof is now. It'll be in that sort of area there, so it'll be the other side of the building.
Yeah.
And then obviously that would then mitigate having people coming outside and going for cigarettes or breaks outside. We can put them all to the rear of the building where there's
And
obviously be a
and
lot
music.
less noise. Pardon?
And you'll have music out there, live music.
If we could, yeah, we'd like to, but obviously not late at night. That'd be more sort of an afternoon thing where we could potentially have sort of a courtyard setting with an acoustic singer or something like that along going on.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Right. Sorry, could you introduce yourself?
Marie Stevens, I live in flat 10, Tirhen Gasel, which is directly opposite the loft. The loft actually looks into my living and kitchen area as well as vice versa.
Right. Do you have any questions you'd like to ask Mr. Absey now?
I would actually. Can I ask, you mentioned the bins being moved from out the front. When did that actually happen?
That was a few weeks ago. Once we received the representations, it was advised, I spoke to the staff and said, look, no one is empty any bins past 10 p.m. And I said, if we are going to, they need to be going to the rear, because obviously we've got access to the arcade. They need to be going to the, because at the minute they are just behind the shutter, which is obviously fronted onto Dalton Street. And then those bins then have been taken back into the arcade, and then, yeah, they're not to be emptied past 10 p.m.
Okay, were you aware that the staff were actually putting the bins in the shutter and pulling the shutter up on Friday and Saturday evening?
Were they putting them in there?
They were putting, they were using black bags, but you could still hear the clanking of the bottles.
So they just put in black bags in the...
Putting black bags in the bins, but
Yeah.
you could hear it, and with the shutter
okay.
as well. That was Friday and Saturday
Yeah.
evening, and we had our windows closed.
Yeah, okay. And I
And
wasn't
we
aware
could,
of that, no,
we
but I
were
can
watching
obviously...
TV, we could actually
Yeah.
hear that.
I'll obviously speak to them about
It wasn't as loud as what it previously has
that.
been.
Yeah, well, what they do before is they'd obviously fill the bins, which are plastic, sort of big bins, with glass, and they'd be emptying the bins into like a wheelie bin for collection. But they're obviously just storing those bins in bin bags in that area.
Okay. Another question I had. Can I ask, when you actually spoke to residents, have you spoken to all residents at the front of the building or the back of the building?
I'm not sure where they all live in relation to...
Could you describe the person? I would know them.
I'll be honest with you, I didn't want to get into... And when I spoke to Res, I've actually said myself, I don't want to be someone who's getting involved with like disgruntled
No, I
neighbours
understand
where
that.
and
I
creating
totally understand that.
you know, animosity between neighbours.
Yeah.
Which is where I've actually said to a few of the neighbours, look, if you've got any issues, come and speak to me. And I haven't asked them for any statements or anything, purely for that fact. I didn't want, I'd say, yourself getting into sort of like disputes with your neighbours.
No, there is no dispute. I mean, you know, there's 10 of us,
Yeah.
and we're quite close, and we all talk to each other. There are, a couple of people at the top that are not bothered by the music because they're working nights or, they're themselves. The other thing was as well, sorry, your rubbish that you're using from the loft, are you allocating that? Is that rubbish, as in general waste, to the loft, or is it through your other businesses? So you've got rubbish bags, so
Yeah.
you've got cartons and
Yeah.
tins and things like that.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't recycle. Is that kept with the bottles?
No.
No?
We got bottle bins, and then we've got general waste. The general waste then goes with the roo. Yeah, it goes into the arcade and taken away with
So
the roo.
do you have cans that you sell as well?
Cans?
Cans, as in cans of lager, beer?
No.
No? Okay. I've never been in, obviously, so, I'm
No,
just
no.
asking the question.
It's mainly bottles, yeah, and draft, and then obviously cocktails, things like that.
Okay. Thank you.
Matthew, is there anything you'd like to ask Mr. Absey?
No, it's fine. I'll just go through my evidence when needed. Thanks.
Thank you. Is there anybody online that would like to ask any questions? No, doesn't appear to be.
You're on mute.
I'm going to ask if you want to raise their hand.
There's one.
Oh,
Hello.
Miss Burchard, did you want to ask something?
I'm online. Hello.
Hello, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yeah, a little bit faint, but yes, we can.
Oh, can you hear me now? Can you hear me
Yeah.
now?
Yes, yes, I can, yeah.
My name is Leslie Bishard, and I am the mother of one of the residents in the block of flats opposite. My daughter is dying of terminal liver cancer, and every weekend she has to put up with the noise coming out of this nightclub. In the past, been told to close the curtains. Well, my daughter has to have earphones on every night at the weekend, and she can still hear the music. I've actually heard all this because I came up to stay with her, and I think it's disgusting that nothing is being done to rectify the noise. Mr. Apsey has said he's talked to the residents. Well, he hasn't spoken to my daughter, and he hasn't spoken to any of the others that we're aware of. So I don't understand why he's saying this. And I just think that he needs to do something drastic about it, because my daughter does not have much longer left to live, and it's not acceptable that she's having to put up with this noise every weekend.
Do you have any particular question you'd like to ask of Mr. Apsey?
Well, I want to know what he's going to do about it. He keeps saying that he's taken into consideration, but I want to know, why does he have to have this music going on till 2 o'clock in the morning?
Mr. Apsey?
Obviously, the sort of concept we've developed, which we feel there's a niche in Bridgend for, would be a sort of like a live music and sort of like upmarket bar experience. Obviously, recorded and live music does add the atmosphere to the venue, so kind of what we're trying to achieve by having sort of a silent venue like Wetherspoons wouldn't really be conducive to that use.
Why not?
So obviously, the music is what people kind of do come out for, to create that atmosphere in bars and well, even restaurants as well.
Can I ask you, have you got the place soundproofed?
Soundproofed.
Yes.
Well, obviously, like I said, the windows on the front are all shut, and there's obviously insulation throughout the building.
Well, I didn't ask that. I said, is it soundproofed? I didn't say whether the windows are shut. I want to know if you've got it soundproofed, because you need to have it soundproofed to stop this music coming out. And also, why should my daughter have to have headphones on and she can still hear the music? They have the windows shut. Why are your doors open?
I said I can't really comment on why your daughter
No,
would
you
have
can't
it.
comment on a lot of things, can you?
Sorry, I didn't catch that.
I said you can't comment on a lot of things, but it's
No,
not
I think
acceptable.
I've answered every question today that's come my
No,
way.
you haven't. You haven't. Would you like it if you had a dying relative having to have this noise going on every weekend?
I'll be honest with you, I think it's quite irrelevant to the sort of like...
It's not
hearing with it.
irrelevant. My daughter lives in a residential block of flats. You have got other businesses. You've got a tapas bar, which is underneath, where the heat comes up into the flats, especially from the kitchen. You've got the gin bar. You've got other places in Bridgend. I don't understand why you have opened this where there's a residential block of flats. Any
Sorry,
comment?
so what was the question? Why have I opened it?
No, I said I don't understand why you have opened it, and you're not taking into consideration the residents that live opposite. No comment?
I didn't see a question there. Sorry, I thought that was just a statement.
I said I don't understand. Why, all right, then why have you opened it where there's a residential block of flats opposite?
We've opened it because we felt that there was a gap in the market for, as I previously said, for somewhere which is as a different offering to the sort of other late night venues and bars that are currently available in Bridgend.
Not
obviously-
where there's people living.
Sorry, so was that where people are living? Like
I
I
said,
said,
not where there's people living. You have no consideration for other people.
Mrs. Bitchard, sorry, I'm just going to interject for a second. My name's Katie, I'm the legal officer today. Just in terms of where we're at with the hearing at the moment, obviously the applicant has presented his case. At the moment, we need to be asking questions of Mr. Apsey, just in terms of, I suppose, asking questions as to what you think they should be doing in order to alleviate these sort of problems, etc. You will have a chance to present your own case as an objector as well. It's just in terms of the actual hearing procedure, just so that we don't go off track at the moment, if that's okay. So have you got any specific questions to ask Mr. Apsey at this stage?
I did ask why he hasn't soundproofed the place.
Okay, can you answer that, please, Mr. Apsey, if that's okay?
as I've sort of previously alluded to, when we've conducted the building work, the place has been insulated. Like I said, we've taken into consideration things like the windows being closed. So yeah, the builders have conducted sort of like soundproofing within that building. And like I said, we're not actually adjacent or above or below any sort of other residential properties or directly.
You haven't answered my question. I asked you why you haven't soundproofed it. It's all right.
I feel I just did answer the question.
Insulation and closing the windows is not soundproofing. If you had it
I answered the
you
question
would
saying
know
that
it.
the building has been insulated by the builders who have conducted all that sort of work within the building.
Soundproofing.
Thank you, Mrs. Bitchard. Is there anybody else that would like to ask any questions online? No, there doesn't appear to be. Okay, thank you. Right, so Mr. Apps, you've had a chance to put your case forward now. We're now going to ask the objectors to put their case forward. Oh, sorry, Yvonne. Oh, Yvonne.
In the order. Chair, are you happy if we run through the order as set out in Appendix B of the report, so that representation 1 is actually Leslie Bichard, and then we go through Mary Stevens, Vicky Stevens, and then Shared Regulatory Services. In other words, take the residents first.
Right, Mrs. Bitchard, would you like to put your case forward now, please? You're on mute, Mrs. Bitchard.
Oh, I'm putting my case forward with the noise in this building and the people that are coming outside being noisy and urinating in the street.
Did you hear that?
And also for my daughter who is ill.
Do you have any questions to ask Mrs. Bitchard? No?
Sorry, can I just clarify something?
Yes, you
So
can.
Mrs. Pritchard doesn't actually live at the premises, no?
No, I don't, but I come up and stay several times with my daughter, and I've experienced the noise coming out of your nightclub.
Okay, no, I just wanted to just clarify that you don't actually live at the premises, that
No,
was all.
I'm my daughter's official appointee, and I speak for her.
Do you have any other questions to ask Mrs. Bichard, Mr. Apsey?
No, to be honest, I just think, like, obviously, as Ms. Pritchard, she doesn't actually live at the property, but is obviously speaking on behalf of her daughter, which is fine. But yeah, I have no further questions on that one.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have anything they'd like to ask Mrs. Bichard? No. Is there anybody online? No. I thank you for that, Mrs. Bichard. Could I ask Mary Stevens, please, to put case forward?
You say that you have been opposite the building to hear the music in the evenings. You know, we've seen you there. I see you there every day almost. Did you not think that the music, considering the windows are closed and it's insulated, is loud? Be it recorded music or, you know, an artist that you have, two artists from 10 till 12 on a Friday and a Saturday. Actually, it started a little bit earlier this weekend. Yeah, but still didn't finish until 11. Did you not think that the music is exceptionally louder?
As I said, like, I'm constantly back and forth there monitoring, and in my opinion, for where we are, which is, again, as I reiterate, it is a town centre location.
Yeah, I understand that.
It's not a residential location. We're not in a housing estate. We're actually in the town centre, operating as a town centre venue. Like I said, when I'm back and forth across the road monitoring things, in my opinion, which, you know, may or may not be right, I don't know, I feel that the music levels are reasonable. You know, it's not like a full-on festival going on. It's literally background music and live music until midnight.
But there is residents living there. It is classed as a
As I
residential
said,
area because you have a block of flats there.
I'm not sure
So
if
in
it's,
my opinion, that is a residential area.
I'm not sure there is
Sorry,
a
can I
class.
just interrupt a second? So at this stage, this is for you to present your case now to the committee, rather than
Yeah.
I mean,
Just-
you can sort of ask the questions in a way, but obviously at this stage it's your case really. So if there's anything that you feel has not been answered, then you can present it at this stage.
Okay.
As in, you know.
Can I just address that last point? I may be wrong here,
Yeah,
but
sorry, go on.
from a planning and sort of like town council sort of vision, I don't think that is a designated residential area within the town centre.
Okay, thank you. So obviously every Friday and Saturday evening since the bank holiday Sunday, the last bank holiday of August, there's been activity. Thursday evenings, he did open slightly, I think, or I did see people in there, whether it was staff or what, I'm not sure, preparing for the weekend. From then up until last weekend, he's had a 10 licence, temporary, and then that ran out and he was issued with another 10 licence, which licensing did explain to me regarding it. I can't understand why I feel as though I should shut my windows and curtains to stop people from looking in. When the place was being first renovated, the builders were on the first level. I get up, I work from home 2 days a week, was technically 3, open my windows or my blinds to find builders looking at me. First time that I knew that he was actually doing anything with the building. So there's been no communication with myself and with 1 or 2 other residents that I have spoken to. They have said that they haven't spoken, or he hasn't spoken to them. Might have spoken to other people. The people at the back of the building don't necessarily hear the noise because you've got 8 flats on one side and you've got 2 flats with 2 bedrooms. So the bedrooms are at the back of the building, the living area and kitchen are at the front of the building. Whereas the other flats, you've got the kitchen, living area and bedroom at the front. So you've got 4 there and you've got 4 behind. Myself and the gentleman below have issued complaints numerous times. Fortunately, the gentleman below was in work and he couldn't get time off to attend today. I've stopped having my grandchildren on a weekend now because of the noise. You know, you're trying to watch TV and you've got to put it up loud. We shut the windows. The flats are very well insulated, so insulated. I never even put my heating on last year because it was that hot. We need the windows open. We need ventilation, you know, and to have the windows open, you have to have the blinds open to a certain level. There's been numerous incidents with the bouncers that he's employed. I'm not sure of the company name. It's just frustrating, and I feel as though I can't relax on a weekend in my own home. I pay my rent, I pay my council tax, I pay everything just the same as he does as well, and I just feel as though I can't relax anymore, so much so that I am actually looking to relocate somewhere else because it is affecting my mental health to such a degree that I just had a new job and I am afraid to go on the sick because I can't afford to. But my weekend, I work Monday to Friday, my weekend is a relaxing weekend, and it is no longer a relaxing weekend. I can't relax in my home anymore.
Right, thank you. Can I just make you aware that any issues you have with builders or anything like that, it's not, we can't deal with that, that's a planning issue. You mentioned about builders and things like that.
Yeah, I understand that.
That's not a matter for us.
I was just trying to make a point.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Stevens? No? Mr. Absey, do you have anything you'd like to raise? No? Anybody online? Nope. Okay, thank you very much. Representation 3. This is it's online. Oh, this is the daughter of this.
Okay, yeah. Sorry,
Representation 3 is Vicky Stevens. She has asked for an additional statement to be presented to members, which you have received. I understand that she might not be able to participate in the meeting this morning, but is there anyone else who is here who is able to speak on her behalf? It's difficult to tell for the members who is actually online.
Chair, there is a Victoria Stevens online, but they haven't raised their hand or indicated at the moment.
She's online. She's online.
They've still got their mic muted at the moment, Chair.
Hello?
Hello? Is that
Hello,
Victoria
can you hear me okay?
Stevens?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Can you hear us?
I can hear you, yeah.
Yeah. Right, would you like to present your case?
My case is basically alongside Marie's. The saying that the sound level is adequate is absolutely rubbish. I've been in this building, and on a Friday night, the decibels regulated so much that it was way too loud. I could not sleep. I need my sleep and I need my rest. For someone who has terminal cancer, rest is very important. When you can't sleep because of disturbed noise, it makes it harder for your body to recover. If it's not a bad day, you really need no noise. And this is noise coming through. My windows are shut. I've got blinds down. I've got nothing to disturb me apart from this noise. Every Friday and Saturday night for 8 weeks. I didn't need this. I came back. I got made even more ill in June, and then I hear about this in the end of August starting, and I can't understand why he's saying he talked to us. He hasn't talked to us at all about this, not at all. We communicated with us. He's not listening to the noise level. We came into yeah, I'm down the far end. I'm not exactly directly opposite, and I can hear everything. We could hear every single conversation. We could hear every single word of a karaoke session going on. You could hear it word for word. That's too loud. That's far too loud. You can't have a karaoke session where you hear every single word of a song and you're trying to sleep. I'm frustrated. I'm trying to live my best life right now because I haven't got long left, and I can't because of this. I found my ideal flat when this flat came available. Loving it, doing all this, and now I've got this problem. I know what I can protect. I know a few solutions, yes, but I don't want loud noise every single weekend. And it's coming. I'm not sure if anyone knows. Sound travels. It goes through insulated walls. If it's too loud, the decibel level is too loud, it will go through the wall. It will just keep traveling until it hits another wall, go through that, and it will actually disturb anyone else in the vicinity. I'm not happy about this. And if and when the other part of the business opens up underneath, it's going to just cause more and more aggro. We'll have more and more people coming out that front entrance, creating havoc. I want to sleep at night. I've got as a resident, because why would you put resident your occupancy above a building and then go, oh no, it's not really residents that live there. Oh yeah, we are. We're normal people. We have to live somewhere. Unfortunately, we're living here. I'm sorry that I'm irate, but I hope you understand the reasons why.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Does anyone have any questions? Yeah, could you just hold on a second? Do you have any questions? Okay, Mr. Absey.
I just want to make a point in relation to respond to that. I'm fully aware of where Victoria Stevens lives, and it is the flat where there are flashing lights and rave music playing until about 3-4 a.m. on regular occasions. So I do find it a little bit sort of like contravening that they come out with obviously these allegations and saying that, you know, I'm trying to sleep and things when there is regular loud rave music coming from that flat, very very regular, and bright flashing lights as if it's a discotheque going on in there. Again, I've got no objection to that. You know, people can do what they want. But I just want to sort of make that point that, yeah, obviously that is going on as well.
Can't a person have a life? Yeah, Dan, that music It's my own personal choice. I don't broadcast it because the windows are shut. It's not until 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, if you don't mind. Not at all. I don't go that late.
Hello, it's Katie again, the legal officer. Sorry, have we got any questions just in relation to Victoria Stevens's case that's just been presented, just so that we can move this on to the next stage, please? Are there any specific questions? No? Okay, Chair, do you want to move on to the next?
Yes, we can.
Sorry, Chair. I think Mrs. Beechard might have a question. She's put her microphone on.
We haven't got. Mrs. Beechard's got a question. Sorry, Mrs. Beechard's got a question. Oh. Mrs. Beechard, did you have a question?
I'd like to ask Mr. Aspey, how would he know that this music was going on till 3, 4 o'clock in the morning when his place is closed, supposedly at 2 o'clock? And I know for a fact that my daughter would not be playing rave music and till that time in the morning. She is trying to get to sleep.
I think that's a family dispute. I think you need to have.
No, it's not a family dispute. You've just said something which isn't true.
Again, that's your opinion. I'm not.
This is my
I'm not here
opinion.
to state any sort of lies or anything. I said I'm just saying what I've witnessed on regular occasions, and it's sort of like a bit of a running joke within the business. Like flip now, they're off with their rave music again. Again, none of us are affected by it. None of us are bothered by it. But I'm just sort of making the point that there is that music going on until the early hours. And again, me witnessing it, it's on a public highway. Do you know what I mean? I'm around. I socialise as well. You know, I go to other venues in the town centre.
I thought you said earlier you don't want to get into a dispute with anybody.
I think we're going down a bit of a different track now with this.
We are, but he's not telling the truth.
I think we need to move on from this point. I think it's obviously for the committee to weigh up anything that's been said on the balance of probabilities here. So I think, you know, it's gone off on a different tangent anyway. It's not really sort of relevant at this stage, but that's for the committee to decide. But we'll, I think we need to move on to the next objector, if that's okay.
Yeah, thank you, Katie. So, right, the police has withdrawn. So, Matthew, could I please ask you to put your case forward, please?
Yep. I've got my case. I've summarised it, provided it already, but obviously I'll go through it briefly, as quick as I can. Obviously, first we were aware of this venue was the 4th of July. Plan application was submitted by Mr. Apsey, which we are consultees. We didn't provide any objections for reasons already brought up really by Mr. Apsey in terms of we want to stop a development in an area that's in desperate need of improvements with regards to empty dwellings, because obviously, you know, that comes under our remit as well, and we want to encourage businesses, residential activity in town centres in this day and age. 14th of August, temporary events notices submitted. Obviously, we were aware of those. We didn't provide any representations to those due to the information we received in the plan application. We didn't envisage there being any problems. And the first 10s are usually responded on afterwards if we receive any complaints, which most of the time there's not complaints from new businesses. Obviously, in this case, there was. We received a complaint on the 3rd of September about the noise issue. Obviously, we just said that, you know, we'd have to assess noise from our perspective, from noise inside the premises. So noise from music that's affecting, or voices that's affecting the residential property, any residential properties opposite. Hence why the bottle situation Mr. Apsey's referred to is something that come under another objective, and it's not our objective. We deal with the noise from inside the premises. Like I said, so yeah, so we just told the complainants the process and what we would obviously get involved in if there's any problems. There was a further 10 submitted, and then we received obviously another complaint in the meantime from a different complainant. I've detailed the issues that they've given to us in their emails. So obviously at this point now we received 3 complaints, which is unusual for a new business, you know, in this capacity. So, you know, we told the complainants what the procedure is, and that obviously we'll see if we can ask the applicant to adjust their timings for the temporary events notices. The reason we do this is because historically there's background levels are lower, you know, so if you've got a business open at 7 o'clock in the night, obviously there's a lot more people about. There's cars, there's, you know, moving traffic, there's people back and forth. Whereas after 12 o'clock normally that tends to die down, so the background levels are lower. So any noise coming from a venue after 12 is worse because the background levels are lower. So obviously we try and negotiate with an applicant, say, look, the fact you're putting these temporary event notices in now, and the fact you're going to be applying for a premises license, we feel, you know, it's almost like a trial and error process, we feel, whereby we look to see if, you know, if he's only got 10s in for 12 o'clock, and if there's no complaints, you know, how we can control that moving forward. Can we push it to 1 o'clock? So obviously, my colleague, Miss Helen Pembridge, spoke to Mr. Apsey. I wasn't in that day, to ask if, you know, if we can obviously remove the timings of the noise, of the application, sorry. So, because we had said that we proposed for the timings to be adjusted in the temporary events notices to licensing, or also deal with the applicant. So, on that basis, Mr. Apsey at this point agreed to you know, to those timings, and obviously we still receive further complaints afterwards. Anyway, after that weekend, we actually received the application for the premises license. We are one of the responsible authorities that gets consulted with, along with South Wales Police. So obviously, you know, we were on the verge of providing our representations on the information that we had available at that given time. We're also continuing to have complaints from residents in the block opposite. So we sent them out log sheets saying, look, you know, we need to get this log because we need to look at when we need to monitor the premises if indeed there is a problem. More temporary events notices were submitted, and then obviously more complaints were received again by us from the residents. So I did contact Mr. Apsey. Like I said, like Mr. Apsey said himself, I don't want to get involved in the war of words, tit for tat. I'm more than happy for that phone call to be looked into, and in the future. But let's just say there was a disagreement. I felt that, you know, that it'd be sensible to put the temporary events notices in for 12 o'clock in the short term to see where they can go. And, you know, I was under the impression that Mr. Apsey actually said to me that I've already made my mind up and I'm not, you know, I'm on the side of the complainants, which obviously I refute. But anyway, let's not, you know, go too much into that. Yeah, so like I said, he agreed to have it till 1 o'clock, which we wanted 12 o'clock. And obviously, you know, we didn't object to that because at that point we were only going on hearsay evidence from the complainants. We didn't actually have any evidence ourselves. We'd been sent videos and stuff, and we'd been given information from the complainants. But again, like he rightly says, you know, we didn't look into that. We've got to obtain our own evidence as a local authority. You know, we can't side with anyone. We just got to take an impartial stance. And obviously, officers were, you know, were called out later then with regards to that. So more 10s were submitted. Then we had, so we decided as a department, we put the complainants on an out of hours list. The out of hours list means that they've got access to an out of hours number. So if they're affected by noise within their premises from music or voices, and by that, it's got to be a living area. So it's got to be a living room or a bedroom. Then we, you know, they've got access to our number, and we'll try and get there as quick as we can. The service is normally within the hour. We can't guarantee we're going to be there within 20 minutes because obviously, you know, we're not a blue light service. We have other complaints and other calls to go to, not just this. But obviously, we did give the complainants access to an out-of-hours number to see if officers can witness the problem themselves. And by that, when the officers get called out, they go to the complainant's property and they've got to witness the noise from the property of the complainants and where it is coming from. So we had some calls received on the 5th of October by 2 complainants, and 2 of our officers went out to witness any issues. There were some issues noted that night, but we didn't feel that the issues we witnessed that, well, I didn't go personally, colleagues of mine went, Miss Emma Aston, Miss Leah Sumner. We didn't feel that night there was enough evidence that we gained to suggest that the noise was a nuisance on that particular evening. However, we did have some concerns, but they were, you know, concerns we feel that can be easily resolved. But anyway, like I said, I've included those statements, and obviously I've received further emails which are also included in my summary of information. Obviously, you know, bearing in mind the fact that we'd obviously had these complaints, we'd had 2 conversations with Mr. Apsey, then obviously from an environmental health perspective as one of the responsible authorities, we had to respond to the licence application. So when we had to look at the licence application, and when we have licence applications in, normally there's you know, under the section that we sort of have responsibility for, there's quite a lot of information in there that tells us how they're going to control noise from their premises. So basically, I'll just read this out because it's obviously relevant for today. That's where we are. My response was, I refer to the recent application to grant the premises licence to 14 and 20 Norton Street, Bridgend. The application states they wish to have live music until 12, Sunday to Thursday, and until 12:30 on Friday and Saturday. They also state they wish to have recorded music until 12:30 Sunday to Wednesday and until 3 a.m. Thursday to Saturday. To date, the applicant has been submitting intends to open their establishment prior to the premise licence being granted, and we've been receiving numerous complaints in environmental health. There are concerns regarding noise nuisance caused to nearby residential properties due to the times of live and recorded music, especially when the background levels are lower, e.g. in the early hours. In the application it states, noise levels will be kept to a reasonable level. Customers will be made aware of what is acceptable behaviour within the premises. We will erect signs at the entrance exits to remind customers of residents nearby and to be respectful of that. There's been no mention of any mitigation or control measures which we normally see in an application standard, whether they be sound limiters, whether it be triple glazing windows, whether it be doors kept closed, you know, that type of thing really. There was no mention of that in the application, which we normally see as standard in an application for a licensed premises. So basically, like I said, I stated there's been no mention of any mitigation or control measures that will be implemented to ensure that these activities in the premises will not cause a nuisance to residential properties, which is currently what has been reported by numerous separate residents. Again, at this point, not our opinion, the opinion of the people that have complained to us. We're still trying to gather evidence ourselves. I note that there's been no support information provided to demonstrate how the licensing objective of prevention of public nuisance will be promoted. The information provided in this section details only what I've noted above. I spoke to the applicant about attendance recently and raised these concerns, but he claimed that there was no issues present despite me explaining the nature of the complaints. Again, happy for that phone call to be shared at a later date, whatever. At present, in view of the above, I wish to object to the application's time until such time that the applicant can demonstrate that the premises will have no negative impact on other residential properties in the area. So that was our response, and we haven't received anything back. So that response goes to licensing, and it goes to the applicant. So obviously, from then, we've received nothing. Further tenders were submitted. Again, you know, as far as we were concerned, we couldn't really object to those tenders because we didn't have our own evidence, only the evidence of the complainants. Then we had an email then from licensing to say that it maximised the use of all his tens on 14 and 20 Norton Street. And, you know, obviously there was not going to be any other temporary events notices going in, so we didn't think there was going to be any others. Then we had an application come in for Norton Arcade, one Norton Arcade. But obviously, when we went to the premises then, because one of the officers who went the first time, Miss Emma Aston, went back then on out of hours. It was the same room being used for one Norton Arcade as it was for 1420 Norton Street. So we'd maximised one set of temporary events notices, and then obviously I'd put them in for a different address. Again, that's not really our concern. Our concern is the noise. But, you know, obviously we didn't think that our premises was being used because it was maximised. So when we had a call, then we had a call about one Norton Arcade, and when we went there, we realised it was the same premises. Like I said, Emma mentioned that in a statement, and like I said, this time, unfortunately, when the officers attended, it was Miss Emma Aston and Miss Leila Blanca Kuma. They provided a statement to me and indicated there was a noise issue witnessed in the residential properties of two of the complainants. So based on the information that we had in the witness statements, like we do with any complaint that is witnessed by officers from this department, we've served a notice under the Environment Protection Act Section 80. Now the reason we serve a notice is because we've witnessed a noise nuisance, but the only time an offence occurs on that is if a breach of that notice is witnessed by officers. But what I will state on that is because obviously the applicant is allowed to appeal our notice separately, we have got to give the applicant 3 weeks to respond to that, which he's more than, you know, he's obviously eligible to do, and he probably will. But what I'm saying is, because of this, we did not have any involvement in the complaints that were received last weekend, because we've got to give that 3 weeks notice. So yeah, I delivered a notice to Mr. Apsey's house, and I also sent him an email which he acknowledged, and he asked for the information. So I provided the information for this hearing today, and I also, the information I provided covered the information that he needed for the notice appeal if he's going down that route, really. Obviously, we received further complaints from last weekend, but you know, we weren't attending due to the fact that Mr. Apsey has the right to appeal the notice we served last week, which he's got 3 weeks to do. So from my perspective, going off this, really, you know, we know we've got plenty of experience of dealing with commercial premises and noise complaints. We feel it can be controlled as long as, you know, there's things in place, i.e. limiters, maybe different windows. Again, we haven't assessed those. We're more than willing to go out and do that if needed. Like I said, a noise limiter can be put in there, which means it can only be set at a certain level. And we're also willing to give advice in terms of the doors and obviously smoking areas, etc., just to try and minimise the noise impact. And if that's provided, then like I said, maybe we wouldn't be having these objections we've raised today. But at the moment, based on the officer's evidence of when they've called there and they've witnessed the noise nuisance, and based on the fact that we didn't have that information in the applicant's licence application, we've got nothing to suggest that the problem is controlled. So that's the crux of my evidence, really, and
right,
that's
thank
it, really.
you,
Thank
Martin.
you.
Can I ask you, do you inform Bridgend licensing department, or when do you inform them that there's an issue with the premises?
Well, obviously, what we've done, we've informed them that, informed the licensing department about the temporary events notices and the fact that they'd informed us that they were maximising, and then we informed them that the same premises is being used based on officers' information. So that's obviously for them to deal with. With regards to the noise issue, we've informed them we received complaints. However, so the first time they would have known about that was when the licence application went in, and we obviously raised our concerns based on the information in the application. And we've got a duty to inform them and the police when we serve an abatement notice on a premises, which we did.
Okay, thank you. Do you have any questions for Matthew? No?
Yeah. You've looked at the noise monitors to go inside of it?
No, we've not looked at anything yet. because obviously we provide that information needs to be provided as part of the license application.
Yeah.
Obviously, there was a disagreement between myself and Mr. Apsey in terms of, you know, whether he felt it was an issue, whether I felt it wasn't, whatever, or the other way around. But like I said, we provided representations then on the basis of the application, which would have been exactly the same. We had had a conversation with them or not. We've given the representations in writing and we've received nothing since.
And you have advised on soundproofing and everything else?
No, we haven't, because we like I said, that needs to come back to us then, and we can give advice, no problem, or he can provide us with the information with what he intends doing moving forward. Like I said, the difficulty we had is we didn't know there was an actual nuisance there. I mean, albeit we've had a number of complaints. These complaints are not always accurate, you know, in terms of, you know, we can't go on complainants who raise the concerns, and you know, until we receive our own evidence. We can't go on. So we had not made our mind up whether the nuisance existed until the recent issue where officers were called out and obviously witnessed the nuisance. And that was the only time we could because that's why we didn't object to the temporary events notices.
Yeah.
Whilst we can advise Mr. Apsey, look, you know, we recommend you bring the timings back for now and maybe develop them as you go on. We couldn't object, which if we'd witnessed the nuisance at that time, we would have objected, which means that the event possibly couldn't go ahead, or would have had a different hearing, or, you know, who knows. But until we received the evidence last week from the two officers that called out, we didn't know if the nuisance existed or not.
Okay,
Thank you.
Like I said, we did not. I referred to the videos in my statement.
Yeah.
But we don't go on the evidence in the videos because obviously, like Mr. Apsey rightly said, they can be open to scrutiny, and we can only go on information we receive or we get ourselves officially.
Yeah.
Which obviously the officers' witness statements are why we served the notice under the Environment Protection Act.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew. Mr. Apsey, do you have anything to say or any questions?
No, just making a point on what Matthew said there is about, I understand like, you can't use the term numerous complaints, but it does appear that there are only actual 2 complainants who live at the premises, who are complaining multiple times. So I just want to like differentiate that. It doesn't seem that there's 10 different people complaining. It does seem to be only the 2, which is, you know, rightly or wrongly, it is the minority of residents. And obviously, like, I'm just looking at these statements now, which I've only actually had eyes on today. Yeah, I'll have to go through it all and pass this on to our legal team, but I think this is, you know, quite subjective, and there's no actual sort of like data or hard evidence here that I can see from first glance. It's just sort of like a summary of a timeline of events, really, where they park their car, etc. And yeah, I think it's open to interpretation, quite subjective. But like I said, with regards to the abatement notice, it is with our legal team in a minute, and I don't really want to comment too much further on that. Like,
is there anybody online that would like to ask anything of Matthew, please? No?
No, thank you.
Oh,
No, I said no, thank you.
all right. Mr. Apsey, something came up then about the TENS notice. You exhausted your TENS on 14 to 20 Norton Arcade. Why is it now being applied for under a different?
to be honest, when we obviously took the lease out, we had then correspondence from BCBC for rates bills, and those rates bills covered 3 different addresses, and where we're actually we basically, as I said, we're doing sort of the project in stages. We're opening different rooms at different times. So we were actually using, I think we've got like 2 rooms that we're currently using within the venue. One of those addresses was 20 Norton Street, And obviously, when we had the rates bills through, we thought, oh, there's actually 3 addresses here, and one of the other rooms is actually one Knowlton Arcade. So we believed that we were within our right to use, as we are paying rates on 3 different buildings, one of the addresses that we have the rates bills for.
Even though one wasn't actually a venue for.
Sorry, what was that? One wasn't a venue for?
Well, you obviously had the 10s for
Yeah.
number 14 to 20 because
Yeah,
you've
yeah.
actually got things going on there.
Yeah.
But number 1, there wouldn't have been anything going on.
No, one of the rooms actually does fall under number 1 Knowlton Arcade.
You understand? It's just something that just popped into my head, that's all. I just wanted to know about that.
Sorry, can I just add there? Based on the information we received from CCSU, which is the customer support unit, we've actually got video showing that the same licensable premises was used for 14 to 20 Knowlton Street and 1 Knowlton Arcade, and officers' witness statements. So it's exactly the same room.
Right, okay. Right, okay, so that's everybody. Yeah. So, we come now to closing statements. Mr. Ramsey first. Oh, yeah. Right, okay, so the people objecting now are invited to summarise their case. So, would you like to summarise your case, please?
Okay, can I just state that Mr. Aspie has never approached me regarding the loft, speaking about noise, building work, etc. And I can speak on behalf of Victoria also, and the gentleman down below, lives below me. 3 of us who live at the front of the building who are subject to the main of the noise rather than the back of the building where it isn't that used. I'd like to come to some agreement more than anything that he would be willing to reduce the noise levels to get the people that he has manning the doors, close the doors, to have notices up for people to be respectful of the people living opposite, which I don't think there is at the moment. You put it up on the weekend, did you? Yeah? Oh, there we are. Inside the building or outside the building? Inside. Maybe you need to put something outside the building where people are smoking to be respectful of people. Yeah. Maybe you need to iterate, you know, I've run pubs myself. I know how loud it gets. I find it difficult that he can't hear how loud it is. He actually has access to the flats because they take the bottle bins out from a little side alley from the back entrance into the front. So he could actually walk into the building, stand on the stairs and hear how loud it is. I'm not sure if he has done that. You have? Yeah? Yeah, come up to the top floor, on the top landing, and then you could hear. Like the officers did, they came into the flat and outside as well. Windows are constantly closed in the stairwell.
Sorry,
Jump in
can you
again.
just wait, because it's...
Sorry, yeah,
No,
we're
sorry.
going into a bit back and forth
Yeah.
now. So the purpose of this section is your closing statement, is just to summarise your case.
I would just like to come to a compromise. It's, you know, for him to be respectful of the people who are living there, and then we could be respectful to him also. It's a mutual thing, you know, everybody wants to work together, and I feel as though it hasn't worked together because he hasn't approached us.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Bitchard, would you like to summarise your case, please?
Hello, I would just like to summarise what I have already said, and I would like it if Mr. Apsey could take into consideration soundproofing the building, as even when it was hot in the summer, they couldn't keep their windows open because it was so hot. And I think really he should be more respectful to the people in the building, especially my daughter, who I've told you is seriously ill and doesn't need all this aggravation. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we still have Victoria Stevens online? No, we don't appear to. Is that enough time?
Can I just say that she has been unwell this morning, and she did text me to say initially she wouldn't be able to attend because she was too unwell. So maybe she's gone offline at the moment.
Sorry. Matthew, would you like to summarise yours? We are coming to you, but yours is last, okay?
Just like we do it, really, we're not against the premises being open. As an environmental health department, we well supportive of the development of premises in Bridgend Town Centre, and we recognise that lots of other ventures and Mr. Apsley's been involved in have been successful. But obviously with this one, we just feel that there just needs to be more information with regards to the controlling of the noise levels, which we're more than willing to work with in moving forward. Again, like I said, I mean, the only difficulty we've got at the moment is obviously because we've served an abatement notice based on the evidence we've got. Mr. Apsley has got the 3 weeks grace to appeal our notice, which I accept he probably will. So obviously at this point, we can only say that we work together in the future and hope that that will be resolved and the neighbours will be happy and Mr. Apsley will be happy with the business moving forward, and everyone is living in harmony, hopefully.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Just going to try Victoria Stevens again. Okay. Mr. Apsley, would you like to just summarise your case, please?
I think most of what I wanted to sort of put forward is in my pre-prepared statement. But just to reiterate, some of the content of that is I'm happy to work with people here and trying to come to an amicable resolution. That's going to be good for all parties really. Just to address the point about me not having sought out to speak to anybody, I think that's a two-way street as well. I think if there are concerns, then there's always that where you could have made contact with myself and aired those concerns. We could have had a constructive conversation over it, which I don't think, obviously that hasn't happened, which is why we're here today. But yeah, I just think that, what we're trying to do with the town centre is try and promote Bridgend, put it on the map as sort of like a hospitality hub. And yeah, I think, like I said, I'm out to put action plans in place and to work with the local authority and officers to make that happen.
Thank you, Mr. Apsley. Right, Yvonne, is there anything you'd like to say now?
No, I don't have any questions. It's
Okay,
obviously the explanation of how the members will now proceed. And
Yeah.
did you want me to go through
Is
that?
there anything you wanted to bring up, Katie? No? Yeah. Go on.
Okay, members will now retire to deliberate what they've heard this morning. They will issue a decision within 5 working days. And they will issue that to the licensing section initially, and then we will then communicate that to all the parties who've made representations today, and obviously to Mr. Apsley direct. So then, I think in due course the chair will close the meeting. If all the parties would wait until they hear from us now on the determination.
Right, thank you very much, Mr. Absey, for your application. And like I said, in 5 working days, you'll know. Thanks for attending today. Thanks everybody for attending. Okay, and I'm now going to close the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.